At the end of 2021, the Innovation Programme held the Open Innovation 2021 event. I had the opportunity to chat with Adam D'Angelo to get his insight on innovation, what's to come in the future, and how everyone can utilise their own failures to improve their work. Enjoy. As the internet has advanced tremendously over the last 2 decades, the accessibility of knowledge has grown at an incredible rate. In 2009, one modern leader of this information sharing revolution was founded by one of the brightest minds in Silicon Valley. In 2019, he joined the Innovation Programme as an advisor, symbolizing the next step of innovation. I would like to warmly welcome Adam D'Angelo, CEO of Quora, to Open Innovation 2021. Hello, Adam. How are you today?
Great. Thank you for having me.
Thank you very much for joining us today. I just wanted to talk a little bit about innovation as a whole and innovation as the program. So first of all, how do you see innovation changing in the next 10 to 15 years?
I think the biggest thing is just that the pace of change in the world is accelerating. And so the amount of innovation that's going to be possible is growing, and the pace of innovation is changing. So I think the biggest change is just that things that used to take a year to change now will take maybe a month to change. And so that really in this greatly accelerated pace of innovation for the world going forward.
Well, we're seeing that every day with new smartphones just having completely new features all the time, and every single day there's a new startup in Silicon Valley or across the world. So it's a very good point. What advice would you give to these new budding entrepreneurs who are looking to make that next step in their own innovation?
One of the things that I've observed about innovation and people starting companies is that it's usually not just a single idea and a single product that immediately works. Usually successful companies are the result of a very iterative process. So someone will have an idea and it won't quite work, and they'll learn and they'll get feedback, and then they'll change it a little bit and it might work a little bit better. And they might go through 50 iterations of an idea before they get to something that's really great. And so I think it's really important if you're a new entrepreneur to allow yourself the space and the time that you're going to need to iterate on an idea and to develop it into something great. And don't have this kind of expectation for yourself from the very beginning that you need to just make things work immediately. And don't set yourself up, in terms of funding or your financial situation or employees. Don't set yourself up in a way where you're dependent on things just kind of like working from the beginning. Almost every successful company has a story about their history where they went through a difficult period and tried a lot of things that didn't work before they finally got to a product that was really great and started to work. So I think that's particularly important as in building a new company.
Speaking of that, could you introduce us to a little bit of the challenges that you encountered in the early days of Quora?
Yeah, so when we first started Quora, we thought of Quora as a platform where we would connect people who have knowledge with people who want knowledge. And we thought that some people have learned a lot in their life and they have knowledge that they might want to share, and other people have questions and they might want to ask those questions. And so we built this product to connect people who can ask questions with people who wanted to write answers. And that all makes sense. But one of the things we learned when we built the first prototype of this was that a lot of people actually didn't want to ask their own questions. They wanted to go and read the answers that people had written to other people's questions, because a lot of people actually have the same questions, or people don't know which questions to ask. And we discovered this through the process of this iteration process that I've been talking about. And it caused us to really kind of rethink how the whole product was structured. And the result of kind of going back and building the product, optimizing for reuse and multiple people reading the same answer, was that we built a product that ended up, I think, doing a lot better and getting traction very quickly in in Silicon Valley, in a space where not many products had success in the past?
Very true. I often find myself looking for an answer, and one of the first things I look at is Quora, because other people encounter same issues as me, and finding it on Quora is one of the easiest ways to find the solution that applies most directly to myself. Lastly, I want to talk a little bit about Silicon Valley's culture. So it's a very unique culture, and it's in the innovation program, we obviously focus on the individual. But how do communities similar to Silicon Valley build and encourage innovation around your peers?
So I think there are a lot of things that all add up to make Silicon Valley successful. One thing is the tolerance for failure. So there's kind of an expectation that people in Silicon Valley, not every company is going to be successful. Not every job that someone takes is going to make them successful. Companies that people work for will go out of business and they'll lose their jobs. And that's all kind of understood in the culture. And so it's really important that you have a kind of social environment that supports failures. And so that's something that I think it's very important that not everywhere in the world kind of has a similar culture. Another very important thing about Silicon Valley is the culture of knowledge sharing between people at different companies. So people don't tend to have very strict, people in their companies don't tend to have very strict relationships between about how much you're allowed to share that you've learned at your company with one of your friends who might work at a different company. There's a lot of tolerance for people to take learnings from one company and bring them to other companies. And in the short term, you might feel as a CEO of a company, you might feel like you're losing your trade secrets. But the advantage of being in Silicon Valley is that you get all the learnings from all the other companies, and it ends up you end up coming out far ahead of where you would have been in an environment that wasn't so permissive. So I think there's a lot of different things to learn from Silicon Valley. My hope is with the pandemic and the shift that a lot of companies have done toward remote work, that more of these lessons and this culture can be spread more easily. So, if you're a company in Japan these days, you can hire people in Silicon Valley who are excited to work remotely for you. And my hope is that there's so much value in this culture that we can spread it to the rest of the world, so we can get even more innovation everywhere.
I completely agree, Adam. Thank you very much for your insight. I hope that people at home can take what you say and really apply it in their own lives with their own innovation. Thank you very much. I hope it's not too late over in America right now. Thank you for staying up with us.
Thank you.
Have a great day. Bye-bye.
Bye.